20 years ago was one of the first times Nebraska seen a mass firing. Any guesses out there? I'm not even going to get the text line think about it because that's a lot. That's a long time ago to think about it. But nevertheless, it's good to think about. Coach Solich had to make some decisions. He felt that needed to be made at that time. All coaches got to make them. And think about this. Before Coach Solich, can't call him Frank, I call him Coach Solich. Before Coach Solich, when he was handed the reins, he had to make some very hard decisions. One in particular was very hard. The two, I'm not saying the other two weren't. He released Craig Bull, linebackers coach. He also released Coach Barnes, D-line coach. And he also released longtime Nebraska assistant Coach Darlington. I'm not saying the first two weren't tough, but Coach D, those guys went back years. To do that had to be very tough. Everybody has their different reasons for doing so. Think about that for a second, Raph. Here's an article way back in 2002. And it says here, we are taking the necessary steps to get this program turned back around. So it said the University of Nebraska is a high standard of excellence and will do whatever it takes to maintain that high standard. Here we go. I will name an offensive coordinator in the near future because remember he let his own offensive play calling duties come around. Let him go. It wasn't working out the best. And you think about offensive coordinators, fellas. Besides Coach Oz, now think about that's why I think a lot of times, we were just talking about this during the break, Rico, just what a lot of things we take for granted, hence the success of Pettit, and then Pettit passes it on to Cook and the success of volleyball. We don't know what a bad season is. A bad season for them is not being in the Final Four. That's a bad season for Nebraska. That's the standard that Pettit set that's still here now all these years later.
Hell, a bad season for them is losing in the Final Four.
Yeah, exactly, losing in the Final Four.
How dare you not get to the championship?
Yeah, how dare you? It's a horrible season. It's like, what? But you think about what Coach Osborne did during that time. Coach Osborne was the head coach, offensive coordinator, and also assistant athletic director. Very few people can do that. Now, I don't know in your Power 5 programs or FBS, any other coach that is the head coach and the OC. Tell me some. I know there's others, but Raph, can you think of any on the top of your head? Text line, let us know if you can think of a coach.
Chip Kelly.
Who's that?
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly, absolutely. Chip Kelly. And he struggled with it at times.
Yeah. Lincoln Riley.
So those two right there. Let us know on the text line if you can think of
Nick
other.
Saban does defense, right?
Who's that?
Nick Saban does defense.
He's more D.
He's not. He's not
kind of
the
a CEO.
He's not the
CEO.
He's more like he takes over the reins if need be. So he's not always the full-time calling the plays.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's getting less and less, but it's big-time college football grows and grows. You see more of the CEO head coach than you do the
multi-role
coordinators.
Coach. Yeah, you don't see that much anymore.
Yeah,
turn it over to your coordinators.
So I don't think Barry Switzer. He never.
Oh,
he was.
No. He didn't wear a headset half the time.
Yeah, he was just a CEO head coach.
He rarely wore a headset or a hat.
He's just yelling at you when you come off the field.
Yeah.
I don't know what the play call was, but you did it wrong.
So even you look back in the
I'm about to spit my coffee out, dog.
You look back in the 80s and stuff, there weren't a ton of coaches. I mean, there were some, but there were. So it's.
Did Schneider call his plays? Bill Schneider?
No.
I feel like Bill Schneider called the special teams.
Yeah,
I know. I think he was. I know he did something.
Yeah, it's crazy though. But you think back on that, there
weren't a lot, man.
There weren't a ton.
That's what made T.O. such a novelty and so unique is that he did that. Yep. So you bring it back up to this time in history we talked about. When he got rid of him, he goes here. I will name an offensive coordinator. This is Coach Solich talking in the article back in December of 2002. I will name an offensive coordinator in the near future. The popular speculation, if not wisdom, was the top job would go to quarterbacks coach Turner Gill. Solich was an assistant at NU for 19 years before succeeding Tom Osborne, the head coaching job 5 years ago. Osborne was his own offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
My, how things have changed, y'all. Coach Solich was saying 20 years ago. Now, I say this, I repeat. He says, if I can find it again. Yeah,
did you ever go to back in the South Stadium and the head coaching office, Coach Osborne's office, and then Coach Solich's office?
Yep.
Did you ever go back to the back room behind the office?
That kind of his private area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I always thought that was pretty cool. So
he had his own private room back there.
And it sort of was like the offensive brain trust. They'd have like a whiteboard
and galore tapes
and plays written down. And then I remember when Solich was there, he had like his chair back there. But I always thought that was pretty cool because he had like the fancy office out front where you'd bring the recruits in and you bring in people that you were meeting with, and then it kind of had like the secret door, and you'd go back into the back, and there was
It was like, what are you doing back here?
Get out
No
of
one's
here.
allowed back here. But yeah, that was the crazy year. But that was the history, man, of the things that happened those years. And you think about when Coach Solich says, I will not let this program. He didn't say, I'm not going to say what the other guy said. Yeah.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
what? Was that him?
Yeah, I'm not going to say what that other guy said. We are taking the necessary steps to get this program turned back around. And here we are, 2022.
Still taking those necessary steps.
Yeah, dude, man, where are we walking to, dog?
I don't know.
We've been taking a lot of steps and ain't been going in the right direction.
We haven't turned.
No.
And the thing about it too is with Coach Solich, when he made those changes, he had met with Coach Osborne, and everybody thinks that it was this easy thing for Coach Solich to do what he did, but he was trying to visualize, the future and what he needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he made, I believe at the time, he did make the necessary changes that needed to be done to keep Nebraska football on the trajectory of staying where it was. Unfortunately, there were other people that disagreed with his decisions. But you look back now at some of these coaches that were there that Coach Solich, was surrounding himself with, are coaches now that are, big time college football.
Bull took care of business. Sometimes, man, I think sometimes if you do it the right way, if you're humble enough, the key word is humility. You got to be humble and say, you know what? If you're humble enough, Craig Bull said, you know what?
Yep.
I learned some things. May not have liked it. The guy's got how many national championships now?
Yeah, he won.
How many did he have up there?
I think he's at three or four.
And now he's at Wyoming doing a heck of a job there.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Coach Solich.
Yeah, it was 3.
You look at Coach Solich. Once he was fired, the guy gets a statue built out from when he goes to Ohio.
I think they named the stadium after him.
Is it Solich Field?
Is it the
I
field
think
or the
it's
stadium?
the field. It's the
It's the
field.
field?
The field, yeah.
Sometimes
The winningest coach in MAC history.
one in his coach in MAC history
Yep.
after being fired, and he stepped away from coaching. Was it 2 years or a year? I think it was.
So he sat last year was his first. Or no, 2 years.
It was 2 years. He said
Because Tim had a rough year, his first year, and
Yep.
then they almost won the MAC championship
Right.
this year. Which Tim Albin.
no, but I'm saying when Coach Solich was fired, did he sit out?
Oh
2
yeah,
years?
he sat 1 year.
He sat 1 year. Because
Yeah,
remember,
1
he
year.
toured
Sorry about
he
that.
traveled the country
Mhm.
and was
Yep.
just getting knowledge, getting information, learning different offenses, learning different defenses. And I have to think about sometimes, man. I look at sometimes we think, well, coach was fired. If that coach, if he or she, women's sports, men's sports, whatever it may be, if they take that fire and it's like, you know what? Yeah, it sucks because ain't nobody gonna feel good about being fired.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
let me take that back. Unless you're getting some cash. Like, you know what? Fire me.
Look,
If I'm Jimbo Fisher, I'm like, go ahead, fire me.
If
then.
I'm Jimbo or Mel Tucker, I'd be like, okay,
I'm like, that's cool.
do it.
Fire me.
Speaking of showing
And you
the door,
and you show me you owe me $85 million, bro. If you're Jimbo, would you say showing the door?
showing the door. There was talk that Ed Orgeron might take over the UNLV job.
I seen that on Twitter yesterday.
Because that's exactly what you need. And
Yeah.
Orgeron in Las
In
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah. Show me the casinos.
Hey, I tell you what, you told me what time to leave and what door to go out of. But write that check to coach over $17 million. I'll leave. I mean,
You tell me what time to leave. There
I'm
ain't
leaving.
no clutch in this casino.